Hi, I'm Zane. Welcome back. So glad you're here. Drop your location in the comments. I realized I did not belong there the moment I walked into the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above my head, violins played something soft and expensive in the background, and everything seemed to shine. The guests looked perfect, like they had stepped out of a magazine. Diamonds, designer gowns, custom suits. It felt like I had wandered onto the wrong movie set. And then there was me. Clara Evans. In my simple off-the-rack dress, the nicest thing I owned, trying to hide near the back of the room and pretend I was invisible. I was only there because the bride was my childhood friend. She had begged me to come. "You're family to me," she had said. Maybe I was family to her, but to everyone else in that room I was a mistake on the guest list. I sat alone at a table near the back, clutching my small clutch bag like a shield. Voices floated around me, low and smooth. Laughter rang out like little bells. Every now and then, curious eyes slid my way, then slid away with a wrinkle of a nose or a small smirk. I tried to stare at the centerpieces and breathe slowly. I told myself I was fine. Then the whispers started. "Did you see her dress? It looks like something my maid would wear on her day off. She's completely alone. How sad." The words were not shouted, but they did not have to be. They were sharp and clear, and every one of them found me. My face burned. My throat felt tight. I could not even touch my glass of water because my hands were shaking. I was thinking about slipping out quietly, maybe sending the bride a message later and making up some excuse. I was almost ready to stand up when a tall, willowy woman stepped away from a group and glided straight toward my table. Her dress clung to her like liquid silver. Diamonds hung from her ears and flashed every time she moved her head. Her smile was smooth, but her eyes were cruel. "Oh, hello," she said in a sweet voice that felt fake. "Are you lost? The staff entrance is around the back." For a second, I could not breathe. It was so direct, so open. She did not even pretend to hide it. Humiliation rushed over me in a hot wave. My chair scraped on the floor as I started to stand. I thought, fine, I will leave. I do not need to stay where I am not wanted. That was when a shadow fell across the table. Someone pulled out the empty chair beside me and sat down with easy confidence, as if it had always been his place. The air around us seemed to shift. Conversations nearby faded a little. I could feel the attention change directions. I turned my head and saw him. He was the kind of man you could not ignore if you tried. Strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, eyes a cool, piercing gray that seemed to see everything. His suit was perfectly fitted, dark and clean, like it had been made only for him. I knew who he was before anyone whispered his name. Dr. Adrien Sterling, the city's most famous plastic surgeon. The billionaire doctor from the society pages, the one with the perfect life, the perfect face, and the cold reputation. I had seen his photo plenty of times on magazine covers while standing in line at the grocery store. He did not belong in my world, and I definitely did not belong in his. He did not look at the woman who had just insulted me, not even once. He turned his body toward me as if she did not exist. Then he leaned in, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something clean and warm with a hint of cedar. "Pretend you're with me," he said in a low whisper. I blinked. "What?" His eyes flicked toward the far side of the room. I followed his gaze. An older, elegant woman was walking toward us, guiding a young woman with her, maybe in her early 20s, prettier than a doll and dressed like she was on display. "My aunt," he murmured close to my ear. "She is about to corner me and push that girl on me like a sales pitch. I need a deterrent. You look like you need a rescue. Help me, and I will help you survive the Shark Tank tonight. Deal?" My heart thudded in my chest. This had to be a joke. It sounded insane. But then I looked around the room. At the faces that had been laughing at me. At the woman beside us who still stood there, waiting for me to crumble. He was offering me a way out. I swallowed hard. My pride was already in pieces. My mother was sick. I was working 2 jobs. I did not have the luxury to turn away help when it came, even in such a strange form. So I nodded. A slow smile touched his lips, like he was pleased with my answer. "Good girl," he said softly. Then his hand came to rest on the small of my back. It was not a light touch. It was firm and sure, his fingers spreading across the fabric, his palm warm through the thin dress. It felt like a claim, clear and loud, and it sent a shock through my entire body. I could feel every point where his skin met mine. The effect on the room was instant. Conversations slowed, heads turned. The cruel socialite's eyes widened in open shock. Her mouth dropped before she pressed her lips together and hurried away, almost tripping on her own heels. People watched us, really watched us. Dr. Adrien Sterling, the untouchable billionaire, was sitting close to the nobody in the cheap dress. His hand was on my back. His body was angled toward me. He did not seem embarrassed or uncomfortable. If anything, he looked relaxed, like this was exactly where he wanted to be. "The view is better from here," he said lightly, as if we were just two old friends sharing a joke. "You can breathe. They smell fear." I let out a shaky breath I did not know I was holding. "Why me?" I asked under my breath. "You could have picked anyone." He tilted his head and studied me with those cool gray eyes. "Because you were about to walk out," he said. "And you still looked proud." There was no pity in his voice, only observation, almost respect. The older woman finally reached our table with the young beauty at her side. I felt Adrien's hand press a little more firmly against my back. "Adrien," his aunt said in a smooth, polished tone, "you remember Lily." He gave them a polite smile, but his fingers stayed on me. "Aunt Margaret," he said calmly. "Lily, this is Clara Evans, my date." My heart leaped into my throat. His date. His aunt's eyes flicked over me sharp and fast. I could feel her judgment, but I met her gaze and gave a small nod instead of shrinking away. If I was going to play this part, I would not half do it. "It is nice to meet you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We made it through that whole conversation, the aunt's probing questions, Lily's forced little smiles, the obvious confusion in their eyes. Adrien never moved his hand. He kept me close, his thumb drawing small, slow circles at the base of my spine that were probably meant to look affectionate. To everyone else, we were a couple. To me, it felt like I had been dropped into someone else's life. By the end of the night, the eyes on me had changed. No one looked at me like I was staff anymore. They looked at me with curiosity, with a touch of envy, with questions they were too afraid to ask, and all because one man had whispered 4 words and put his hand on my back. "Pretend you're with me." I had no idea that those 4 words were about to change everything. 3 days later, I learned just how much. 3 days after the wedding, I thought my life was back to normal. I was behind the counter at the Daily Grind, the small cafe where I worked, the smell of coffee and warm pastries wrapped around me like a blanket. The bell over the door chimed every few minutes. People came and went, most of them regulars. I wore my faded apron, my hair pulled back, my feet already sore even though my shift was only half over. After that strange night with Dr. Adrien Sterling, I had convinced myself it meant nothing. He had needed a fake date. I had needed a savior. We had helped each other and then gone back to our worlds. At least that was what I told myself. I was wiping down a small table near the window when the bell over the door rang again. For some reason, the entire cafe went quiet. Chairs stopped scraping. The soft background chatter paused. I turned, rag in hand, and my breath caught. He was standing in the doorway. The same tailored suit. The same clean lines. The same cold, calm power wrapped around him like a second skin. Only this time he was not framed by crystal chandeliers and champagne, but by cheap chalkboard menus and chipped mugs. Dr. Adrien Sterling did not belong in my cafe. He stepped inside, and it felt like the space shrank around him. The other customers stared openly. Someone whispered his name. The noise of the espresso machine sounded too loud, then too soft. He did not look at anyone else. His gray eyes swept the room once and landed on me. The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile, but something close. He walked straight to the table I was cleaning. "Miss Evans," he said, his voice smooth and low. "We need to talk." I froze. standing there with my cleaning rag in my hand like some kind of shield. I am working, I said. My break is not for another hour. I already spoke to your manager, he replied easily. You have 15 minutes. Of course he had. He led me to a corner booth. The old vinyl seat groaned when we sat down. He looked completely out of place against the faded red cushions, but he did not seem bothered by it. He folded his hands on the table and went straight to the point. I have a problem, he said. My family, and more importantly, the board of directors at my hospital, want me to settle down. They believe a stable personal life makes me more reliable in the eyes of the public. It is dated thinking, but I work in a dated world. He said it like he was listing a medical condition, calm and factual. Okay, I said slowly. But what does that have to do with me? His eyes locked on mine. They want to see a serious relationship. I need a partner for public and corporate events for the next 6 months. Someone who is intelligent, presentable, and not impressed by my bank account. My heart started to pound. He did not look away. You, Miss Evans, fit the criteria, he said. I stared at him. The words felt unreal. Me? Why me? At the wedding you were drowning, but you did not cling, he said. You were not starstruck. You stood up when they mocked you. You made a choice. When I offered you help, you took it without flirting or fawning. You are practical. His gaze sharpened, and I did some research. The way he said it sent a chill down my spine. I know about your mother's illness, he went on. I know about the medical debt. I know you work here and at the bookstore at night. I know you are barely getting by. He said it all so calmly, like he was reading from a chart. No judgment, just facts. But it still felt like he had peeled back my skin and seen straight inside me. I am offering you a solution, he said. He named a number. A dollar amount so large my brain almost refused to process it. The world seemed to tilt for a second. With that money, every bill could be paid. Every thread of collections could disappear. Years of fear could vanish in one moment. I will clear your family's medical debt, he said. Completely. Your mother will be moved to my hospital and treated by the best specialists. All costs covered. She will have the care she deserves. My eyes burned. I tried not to cry. I knew there was a catch. There was always a catch. In exchange, he said quietly, you will be my fiancée for 6 months, in public. The word hit me like a blow. Your fiancée, I repeated. Yes, you will live in my home. You will attend events with me. You will act in every way like the woman I planned to marry. At the end of 6 months, we will part cleanly. This is insane, I whispered. You think I cannot make it look real, he said. I am a plastic surgeon. I build illusions every day. This is no different. You will be paid very well for your performance. His eyes were steady on mine. I felt trapped. But the trap was also a lifeline. My mother's tired face flashed in my mind. Her thin hands. Her soft voice when she tried to joke about the bills. She had given up so much for me. How could I refuse a chance to save her? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a slim leather folder. He placed it on the table between us and opened it. Neat pages covered in small black print stared up at me. Legal words, conditions, rules. This is a contract, he said. My lawyers drafted it for you. There are non-disclosure clauses, behavioral guidelines, termination conditions. I flipped through it with shaking hands. It was overwhelming. Read Article 7, Section B, he said. His voice was softer but somehow heavier. The non-involvement clause. I found the section. The words were cold. No emotional attachment. No romantic expectations. No pretending the lie is real. This is a business arrangement, he said. Nothing more. You will not fall in love with me. I will not fall in love with you. That is the most important rule. My chest hurt at how easily he said it. What if I say no? I asked. His jaw tightened just a little. Then nothing changes. You keep both jobs. Your mother continues with her current care. The debt grows. Your life goes on as it is now. He did not say it in a cruel way. It was worse than that. He said it like it was simply true. I looked down at the contract. Then I thought about the nights I lay awake listening to my mother cough, the months of counting tips, choosing between medicine and food, the shame of always being behind. I already knew my answer. My hand shook as I signed my name. His shoulders relaxed a fraction. He took the folder back and closed it with a soft snap. "My driver will pick you up tomorrow at noon," he said. "Pack what you need. You will move into my penthouse. Mrs. Davenport, my head of household, will show you the rest." He slid out of the booth and stood. The people in the cafe had been watching us the whole time. Now they pretended to look away. He looked down at me one last time, his eyes unreadable. "This will change your life, Miss Evans," he said. "Try not to forget it is only temporary." Then he turned and walked out, leaving me sitting in the old booth with my heart racing and my future rewritten by a signature. The next day, a black car picked me up right on time. Adrien Sterling's world waited for me in glass and marble above the city. I thought the hardest part would be walking into his penthouse. I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing I was about to spend 6 months living under the same roof as a man I was not allowed to fall in love with. The car pulled up in front of a glass tower that seemed to touch the clouds. Sterling Tower. I had seen it only in pictures and on the news. In person, it was worse. Or better. I could not decide. It looked like money and power and distance from everything I knew. The driver opened my door and took my suitcase like it weighed nothing. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded in my ears as I stepped into the marble lobby. Security guards, polished metal, quiet, expensive air. No one raised their voice. No one rushed. The elevator ride to the top felt endless. When the doors opened, I walked into another world. Adrien's penthouse did not look like a home. It looked like a design magazine. White walls, glass, clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below like a map of lights. Everything was perfect. Everything was cold. I half expected him to be there, waiting for me. He was not. Instead, a tall, thin woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun stood near the entrance. Her dark dress was neat and simple, but her posture was stiff. She looked me over from head to toe with sharp eyes. "I am Mrs. Davenport, Dr. Sterling's head of household," she said. Her voice was crisp, without a drop of warmth. "The doctor is in surgery. I will show you to your room." Not your home, I noticed, your room. I followed her through wide-open rooms that smelled like nothing. No cooking, no flowers, no life. Just faint cleaning products and cool air. There were expensive couches, but no cozy blankets. Art on the walls, but no family photos. She led me down a long hallway to a bedroom at the far end of the penthouse. "This will be your quarters," she said. The room was beautiful. Big bed, soft rug, its own window with a stunning view of the city. Dr. Sterling's suite is at the opposite end. The kitchen is available at all hours. You will be informed of his schedule. She opened another door beside the bed. "Dr. Sterling has had a wardrobe prepared for you." I stepped into the closet and my jaw dropped. It was bigger than my entire bedroom at home. Racks of dresses, blouses, skirts, coats, shoes lined up in neat rows, handbags on shelves, every color, every style. I touched one sleeve. The fabric felt rich and soft. "How did he know my size?" I whispered. "He prefers to be prepared," Mrs. Davenport said. "You represent him now. You are expected to dress accordingly." When she left me alone, the silence felt heavy. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the closet, at my small suitcase, which suddenly looked ridiculous, at my hands, which still had faint coffee stains from work. I had signed a contract with a billionaire and moved into his home. It did not feel real. It felt like I was a ghost walking through someone else's life. That night, sleep refused to come. The bed was too soft. The sheets smelled like expensive soap. The city outside glowed and hummed, but in the penthouse, everything was still and quiet. My mind ran in circles. My mother. The debt. The rules. No emotional attachment. I finally gave up. My mouth was dry. I decided to get a glass of water and maybe stand by the window for a bit. I padded barefoot down the dark hall, wearing one of the simple silk nightgowns that had been laid out for me. The only light came from the city outside, casting a soft glow into the rooms. When I stepped into the kitchen, I stopped dead. He was there. Adrien stood in front of the tall windows, one hand resting against the glass, a glass of water in his other hand. The city lights outlined his body. He was shirtless, wearing dark lounge pants that sat low on his hips. The sight punched the air from my lungs. His back was strong and lean, muscles moving under his skin as he shifted his weight. He looked like he was carved out of stone and brought to life. The image did not fit with the cold, polished doctor from the magazines. This was a man. Warm, solid, very real. He heard my sharp intake of breath and turned. His gray eyes found me at once. In the dim light, they looked darker. "Insomnia?" he asked. His voice was low, rough from the late hour. "I guess," I said, my throat suddenly dry. He set his glass down on the counter and walked toward me. Each step felt slow and deliberate. My pulse took off. I fought the urge to back away, to flee like a startled deer. He stopped in front of me, close, too close. I could feel the heat coming off his bare chest. I could smell his clean, warm skin. My fingers curled into fists at my sides to stop them from shaking. "You should be resting," he said. "I came for water," I replied, proud my voice did not crack. He reached past me, bracing one hand on the counter behind me, then the other on the other side. His arms caged me in, the cool marble pressed against my back. He towered over me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to see his face. "Or," he murmured, his lips near my ear, "you were curious about the benefits not listed in the contract." My breath caught. His words slid over my skin like a touch. His chest was inches from mine, his mouth so close it felt like a promise. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "You are playing with fire," I whispered. He gave a small, mocking smile. "That implies I plan to get burned." His gaze dropped to my mouth for a heartbeat, then rose again to my eyes. The air felt thick and hot. My fingers dug into the counter to stop myself from reaching for him. "Do not make the mistake of thinking this is anything more than what it is," he said softly. His tone had changed, less teasing, more warning. "Remember the rules, Clara." He pushed away from the counter as fast as he had closed in. The space between us felt too big now. He picked up his glass, finished the water, and turned toward the hall. "Get some sleep," he said, his voice cool again. "We have a big night coming up." I stood there, rooted to the floor, my whole body shaking. My skin still burned where his breath had brushed my cheek, where his arms had trapped me. I had never been so humiliated, so angry, and so wildly, frighteningly aware of another person. The greatest danger of this contract was not the board of his hospital or the curious eyes of high society. It was him. A week later, I learned what he meant by a big night. "The hospital charity ball," he said, as he adjusted his tie in front of the huge mirror in the living room. "It matters. The donors, the press, the board. My ex will be there as well." "Your ex?" I repeated. "Victoria Lancaster," he said. His voice went a shade colder. "Your job tonight is simple. Convince everyone in that room that you are the only woman I see, especially her." My stomach fluttered. No pressure. He walked with me to the closet. His hand skimmed the hangers, passing dark blues, soft creams, sleek black gowns. Then he stopped and pulled out a dress. Scarlet silk. It clung to the hanger like liquid fire. "This one," he said. "No room for debate. Wear this." My mouth went dry. "It is very bright." That is the point. When I came back out wearing it, the world seemed to pause. Adrien was looking at his watch. Then he looked up. The change in his face stole my breath. His gray eyes swept slowly from my hair, down my throat, over the dress as it hugged my body, all the way to the floor, then back up, warmer, darker. The cool doctor was gone for a moment. In his place was a man who looked at me like I had ruined all of his careful plans and he did not know whether to thank me or curse me. He walked toward me. His hand reached out and brushed a strap on my shoulder that did not need fixing. His fingers were warm against my bare skin. My pulse jumped. "Perfect," he said in a low voice. "I want everyone to see what is mine tonight." It was supposed to be an act. That was our deal. But the way he said mine sent a hot shiver down my spine. At the ball, with his hand firm at the small of my back, the stares felt different. People still watched me, but now it was with curiosity and envy, not disgust. He guided me through the crowd, calm and in control. When he was pulled away to talk to the hospital chairman, I stood near the champagne fountain. That was when a woman with honey blonde hair and a sharp smile walked up to me. "You must be Clara," she said. Her voice was sweet, her eyes were not. "Have we met?" I asked. "No," she said, "but I know his type. He likes projects, shiny new toys. He gets bored very fast. I should know. I almost married him." "Victoria." Before I could answer, a strong arm slid around my waist and pulled me back against a solid chest. I knew who it was without looking. "Victoria," Adrien said. His voice was smooth, but there was ice under it. "I do not believe you have been properly introduced to my fiancée." Quote, he did not wait for her answer. He turned his head and pressed a slow, lingering kiss to my temple. In front of everyone, his hand tightened a little on my waist. I could feel Victoria's anger like heat on my skin. He looked down at me, and for a second, the act slipped. There was something fierce in his eyes, protective, real. "Darling," he said softly near my ear, "shall we dance?" He led me to the dance floor and pulled me into his arms. As we moved together under the lights, I realized two terrifying things. First, I was no longer sure where the act ended and the truth began. Second, I was afraid that he was not sure either. After the charity ball, things between us felt different. We still had the rules. We still had the contract. On the surface, nothing had changed. He was the cold, controlled Dr. Adrien Sterling. I was the fake fiancé who slept at the far end of the penthouse. But I could not forget the way he had held me on the dance floor. The way he had looked at me when he kissed my temple in front of Victoria. For a moment, it had felt real. A few nights later, he took me to a high-stakes art auction. "This is another battlefield," he said as the driver pulled up. "Different weapons, same war." Inside, everything was polished and quiet. The room smelled like old money and fresh paper. Paintings hung on the walls under soft lights. People in expensive clothing moved from piece to piece, talking about value and prestige. I used to study art history before life got too hard. For a little while, I forgot the contract and the money and just let myself look. One painting grabbed me, a dark, moody landscape with a streak of light cutting through the sky. It felt lonely and hopeful at the same time. "It is beautiful," I whispered without thinking. Adrien glanced at the small plaque, then at me. He did not say much, just a low, "You have good taste." But I felt warmth in his voice. When the painting came up for auction, the bidding shot up quickly. One petal kept rising, steady and calm. Adrien's. Another bidder joined him. A man a few rows ahead of us. Older, expensive suit, greedy eyes. I heard someone behind us whisper his name. Marcus Thorne. The number climbed higher. My heart sped up every time Adrien lifted his paddle. Then, just when it seemed like he would win, he stopped. He leaned back in his chair, face unreadable. The gavel came down. "Sold to Mr. Thorne." Later, during a break, Thorne came over to us. His eyes slid over Adrien with fake respect, then landed on me and stuck like something oily. "Dr. Sterling," he said. "Always a pleasure." Then his gaze swept down my dress and back up, lingering too long. "And who is this lovely creature?" "This is my fiancée, Clara," Adrien said. His hand settled on my waist with a firm, steady pressure. Thorne smiled, and I did not like it. "You have exquisite taste," he said. "I noticed your interest in my new acquisition, Miss Evans. Perhaps we can discuss it sometime, in private." His eyes turned my skin cold. Before I could move away, before I could say anything, everything around us seemed to freeze. Adrien went very still. Then he moved. He turned me toward him, his hands sliding up from my waist to the back of my neck, his fingers tangled in the hair there. He pulled me closer, and he kissed me. This was not a soft, polite kiss. It was hot and fierce and full of a possessive anger I could feel all the way to my toes. The room, the people, the auction, everything blurred. All I knew was his mouth on mine, his hand holding me there, the sound of my own pulse pounding in my ears. I grabbed his jacket to steady myself. Instead of pushing him away, I leaned in. When he finally pulled back, my lips tingled. My breath came in short bursts. His eyes burned into mine with a look that had nothing to do with business. "We are leaving," he said. He did not look at Thorne. He did not need to. The message had been clear. In the car, the silence was thick. "What was that?" I whispered. He drove for a while, jaw tight, eyes on the road. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and hard. "No one disrespects what is mine," he said. The words should have scared me. Instead, they sent a hot, wild thrill through my chest. That night, a storm rolled into the city. Wind howled around the tower. Rain hammered against the glass. The sky flashed white, then growled like something alive. Then, the lights went out. I was in the living room when it happened. 1 second the room was bright, the next, it was ink black. "Stay where you are," Adrian's voice called out from the hall. "Calm, steady. I have it." A moment later, a thin beam of light cut through the darkness. His phone. He moved around the room with easy grace, lighting thick candles one by one. The flickering flames turned the cold penthouse into something softer. Shadows danced on the walls. The storm outside cut us off from the world. No buzz of electronics, no city noise leaking in. Just the rain, the thunder, and the soft crackle of candle wicks. "I suppose we could use a drink," he said, his voice quieter than usual. He poured whiskey into 2 crystal glasses and handed one to me. Our fingers brushed. A spark ran up my arm. We sat across from each other at the low table, the candle between us. "How is my mother?" I asked. It came out in a rush. "Really?" He watched the flame for a moment before answering. "She is responding well to the new treatment," he said. "Her vitals are stable. The team is hopeful." Some of the tightness in my chest loosened. "Thank you," I whispered. "You do not need to thank me," he said. "It is in the contract. That does not make it mean less to me." He went quiet. The storm raged outside. Inside, the air felt charged. I asked him about his work, the pressure, the hours of standing over an operating table, holding another person's life in his hands. He answered in short, honest lines. Then he asked me about my art, the degree I had left unfinished, the dreams I had pushed aside. I was not sure what made me brave enough to ask the next question. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe the storm, maybe the candlelight that made the sharp edges of his face seem softer. "What happened with Victoria?" I asked. He went very still. For a moment I thought he would shut down, change the subject, stand up and leave. "She cheated on me," he said finally. His voice was flat, but I could hear something raw under it. "With my best friend, the man who was supposed to stand next to me at my wedding." He took a slow sip of whiskey. "It was not the act that destroyed me," he said. "It was the months of lying. The 2 people I trusted most looking me in the eye and telling me nothing was wrong." He looked at me then, and for the first time since I met him, his mask slipped completely. In the candlelight, I saw not a cold billionaire, but a hurt man. "I decided I would never let anyone get close enough to do that again," he said. "So I made rules. Contracts. Distance." My chest ached. I reached across the table and laid my hand over his. His fingers twitched under mine. His eyes dropped to our hands, then lifted back to my face. The air felt thick, hot, full of something heavy and sweet. He turned his hand and laced his fingers with mine. Slowly, he leaned across the table. Our joined hands stayed in the middle as his face came closer. His eyes flicked to my lips. I could feel his breath, warm against my skin. The moment stretched, fragile and perfect. Then a crack of thunder hit so loud it shook the glass. We both jumped. The spell broke. He pulled his hand back like he had been burned. The cold mask dropped over his face like a curtain. "It is late," he said. His voice was tight. "You should get some rest." He stood up and left the room without looking back. I sat there in the candlelight, my lips still tingling from a kiss that had almost happened, and somehow felt more dangerous because it had not. The ghost of that almost kiss followed us all week. He grew even more distant, throwing himself into his work. I tried to stay out of his way. We moved around each other like two magnets that were afraid to touch. Then my phone rang at dawn. It was the hospital. My mother had developed a severe infection after treatment. She needed emergency surgery. High risk, critical. My world shattered. By the time Adrien rushed into the room, I was already crying so hard I could barely speak. He listened to the nurse, asked sharp questions, then turned to me. "She is in the best hands," he said. "But I am going in. I will do the surgery myself." I could only nod. "Go to the hospital and wait," he said. "If administration asks for documents, call me." Hours later, pacing the waiting room, I remembered something my mother had said about legal papers. I called him. He answered from outside the operating room, his voice calm but clipped. "In my office, behind the painting, there is a safe," he said. "The code is 1805. Inside is a blue folder with your mother's documents. Take that, nothing else." I went. Back at the penthouse, my hands shook as I swung the painting aside and typed in the code. The safe door opened with a heavy click. Inside was neat order. Papers, boxes, jewelry. I found the blue folder and grabbed it. Under it, another folder caught my eye. Black, thick, labeled with a single name. Marcus Thorne. I knew I should close the safe. I knew I should walk away. Instead, I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were reports, photos, recorded statements, a map of all the businesses Thorne had ruined. Families crushed under his greed. Then I saw another name, Lancaster Textiles, Victoria's family company. At the back, in a small sleeve, was a single hand-written note on Adrien's stationery. Did he destroy her father's business? Is that why she left me? My stomach dropped. The story he had told me was simple. Betrayal, heartbreak. But here was the rest. He had been digging into Thorne for months, not for revenge, but for answers, for guilt, for a truth he had never faced out loud. This was his dark secret. Not that he was heartless, but that he was not. He cared too much, alone and in silence. He was not just a man hurt by an ex. He was a man who believed he had failed her. When I returned to the hospital, my mother was out of surgery and stable. The sight of her breathing calmly almost brought me to my knees. Adrien found me in the waiting area later, dressed in fresh clothes, eyes tired. "She is doing well," he said. "The next day will be important, but I am optimistic." I stood up. "Thank you," I said. "You saved her life." "It is part of our arrangement," he said quickly. I shook my head. "No, we both know it is more than that." Quote. Before he could answer, I pulled the black folder from my bag and set it on the chair between us. "We need to talk," I said. "About Marcus Thorne, about Victoria, about this." His face went still, his eyes turned sharp. "You went through my safe," he said. "I gave you one clear instruction. And you gave me half a story," I shot back. "You told me she cheated. You did not tell me you were investigating the man who ruined her family. You did not tell me you still carry the guilt." Silence stretched between us. "You still love her?" I asked quietly. "Is that it?" He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again. The ice in them had melted. "No," he said. "I do not love her. Not anymore. But I feel responsible. I was obsessed with my work. I missed the signs. I thought she left because I was not enough. I started digging into Thorne to prove that it was my fault, that I failed her as a man, not just a fiancé." He ran a hand through his hair, messing it up. For once, he did not seem to care. "I do not know how to stop carrying it," he said. I looked at the folder, at the man in front of me. The man who had saved my mother kissed me like I was the only woman on earth, and still believed he did not deserve happiness. "Then we stopped carrying it by doing something," I said. You want justice for what he did to her. I want justice for what men like him do to families like mine. So we go after him. Together." His head snapped up. "Together," he repeated. "Yes," I said. "You have the facts. I have a face he underestimates. I am not just your fake fiancé. I can be your partner." For a moment he just stared at me, as if he was seeing me for the first time. A slow, real smile touched his mouth. It softened his whole face. "All right, Evans," he said. "Let us go to work." In the weeks that followed, the penthouse turned into a war room. We spread documents across his office desk. We traced patterns in Thorne's deals. We built a plan. The more we worked together, the more I saw the real Adrien. Brilliant, focused, protective, funny in a dry, rare way that he showed only when he forgot to hide. The trap was set at a private investment summit Thorne was hosting. I would go in as Clara Beaumont, sole heir to a European tech fortune, pretending to consider a massive deal. He would listen through a hidden earpiece, guiding me, while his legal team recorded every word. "You do not have to do this," he said as he fitted the tiny device behind my ear. His fingers were steady, but his jaw was tight. "If at any point you feel unsafe, say the word and walk away." "I am not walking away," I said. "I am walking in." I entered the ballroom alone. The emerald dress he had chosen for me whispered around my legs. Heads turned. Thorne's eyes hooked on me at once. The game played out like we had planned. I let him think I was smart, but naive. I dropped hints of a fake fortune. He swallowed the bait. "Some deals are better discussed in private," he said with a slick smile. "My suite is upstairs." My stomach tightened. "Your call, Clara," Adrien's voice murmured in my ear. "You owe me nothing, do you hear me?" I took a breath. "I am fine," I whispered, then smiled at Thorne. "Lead the way." Quote. His suite was large and expensive, but it felt small and heavy. He poured drinks. His mask slipped. The smooth businessman turned into the man who had looked at me like prey at the auction. "You remind me of someone," he said, moving closer. "A little waitress I met once, fiery, proud. I wondered what happened to her." His hand clamped around my wrist. My heart lurched. The earpiece went strangely quiet. "Clara," Adrien's voice came through for a second. "Say the word and get out, now." Before I could, Thorne grabbed my other arm. "I do not think you are going anywhere," he said. Right then, the door exploded inward. Adrien stood in the doorway. I had never seen him like that. His eyes were pure steel. His chest rose and fell hard. He stepped into the room with a calm, deadly focus that sent a chill through me. "You have 5 seconds to take your hands off her," he said. Thorne dropped his grip fast. "What is the meaning of this?" he blustered. "It is over," Adrien said. "My lawyers have been recording everything. Your confession of fraud. Your attempt to coerce a fake heiress. By morning, the SEC will have an injunction. Your accounts will be frozen." Thorne went pale. Adrien did not look at him again. He crossed the room to me, his eyes scanning my face and arms. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. I shook my head, though my legs were shaking. "Good," he said. "We are leaving." He took my hand and did not let go until we were in the underground garage beside his car. The thick silence there felt even louder than the suite. The adrenaline drained away all at once. I started to shake harder. He turned to me and cupped my face in both hands. His thumbs brushed away tears I had not noticed. "I thought I was going to lose you," he said. His voice cracked. "When the audio cut out, when he took you upstairs, nothing else mattered. Not the plan, not the revenge, not the board, just you." My breath hitched. He looked wrecked. The careful control he always wore was gone. In its place was a man who was terrified. On the drive back, he was quiet. When we exited the highway, I realized with a start that he was not heading to the tower. He parked a block from my old apartment building. "What are we doing here?" I asked. He stared straight ahead for a moment, then turned to me. His eyes were dark and sad. "The contract is broken," he said. "It has been for a while. You are free, Clara." Cold air seemed to seep into the car. "What?" I whispered. "You do not owe me anything," he said. "I will keep taking care of your mother's bills. That was never a favor. That was my duty." but I will not keep you tied to me with a lie." He swallowed hard. His hands were clenched on the steering wheel. "You deserve a life that is real," he said. "One where you are not defined by my name or my past. Go be happy, please." He would not look at me. He was letting me go, giving me the freedom I had once prayed for. It felt like my chest was splitting open. I walked up to my old apartment in a daze. The familiar smell of old wood and lavender air freshener hit me. It should have felt like home. Instead, it felt small and faded, like a memory that did not quite fit anymore. Days crawled by. I visited my mother at the hospital. She got stronger every day. Her room was bright and full of warmth. Mine felt empty. One afternoon, she took my hand and studied my face. "You saved me," she said, "but you look heartbroken. You love him." "It is complicated," I said. "No," she replied gently, "it is not. I saw the way he looked at you when he checked my charts." "That is not a doctor looking at a patient's daughter. That is a man in love. So why are you here and not with him?" Her words hit something deep inside me. I thought of all the versions of him I had seen. The cold doctor, the jealous man at the auction, the boy hurt by betrayal, the surgeon who held my mother's life in his hands, the man who had crashed through a door for me, the man who loved me enough to let me go. I was not the girl from the wedding anymore. I was stronger, braver. This time, I did not want to pretend. I kissed my mother's forehead, left the hospital, and took a cab straight to Sterling Tower. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat as the elevator rose. I still had the keycard he had given me, the one I had never returned. The light turned green. The doors opened. I found him in his office, alone, standing at the window with a glass of whiskey in his hand. The city glowed below, but he looked like a king trapped in his own castle. "I do not want to be free," I said. He spun around. For a second, he looked like he was seeing a ghost. "Clara," he breathed. "Not if it means being without you," I said. My voice shook, but I did not stop. I walked toward him, every step a choice. "Tear up the contract, Adrien. Let us write our own." "You do not understand," he said hoarsely. "I am not good at this. I am cold. I am jealous. I make rules instead of promises. I do not know how to be anything else." "Yes, you do," I said. I stopped in front of him and lifted my hand to his face. His skin was warm under my fingers. "You were brave enough to walk into a surgery for my mother. You were brave enough to face Thorn. You were brave enough to let me go when you thought it was best for me. You can be brave one more time and choose me. For real." Quote. His eyes shone. "And what about you?" he whispered. "Are you choosing me or the man who saved your mother?" "I am choosing the man who almost kissed me by candlelight," I said softly. "The man who tells himself he is made of ice when his heart is the warmest thing I know. I am choosing you. No contracts, no rules, just us." Then I rose on my toes and kissed him. This kiss was not part of any plan. It was not for a crowd, it was for us. It was full of everything we had held back. Gratitude, anger, fear, desire, love. For a heartbeat he was frozen. Then he broke. He dropped the glass, pulled me into his arms, and kissed me back with a raw, shaking hunger that felt like coming home. His hands framed my face, then slid down my back, holding me like he was afraid I would vanish. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine. "No more pretending," he said. "Never again," I whispered. 6 months later, I stood under an old oak tree in a small garden filled with flowers. This time, I was not the girl hiding at the back of someone else's wedding. I was the bride. My dress was simple and beautiful. The people in the chairs were not strangers, but the ones who mattered. My mother in the front row, healthy and glowing. Mrs. Davenport beside her, hiding a smile. A few close friends from our new life. Adrien stood across from me, holding my hands. His eyes were soft and full of something I had once promised never to feel for him. Now I held it gladly. "Clara Evans," he said, voice shaking a little. "When I met you, I was hiding in a fortress of my own making. I offered you a contract because I did not know how to offer my heart. You walked into my world to save your mother, and you saved me instead. You taught me that love is not a weakness. It is the bravest thing we can choose. My vow is simple. I will spend the rest of my life being the man you already see in me. Tears ran down my cheeks, but I was smiling. Adrien, I said, my voice thick but steady. You came into my life like a storm. You made a deal with me and turned it into a home. You showed me I could walk into rooms full of people who once laughed at me and stand tall. You showed me that I belong nowhere more than I belong at your side. I promised to see the man behind the mask, to challenge you, to choose you every single day, not because of a contract, but because I love you. We said I do, and the garden exploded with soft cheers and happy tears. Later, as the sun was setting and the sky turned gold, we danced under the open sky. No cameras, no crowds, no lies. He pulled me close, his hand warm at the small of my back in the place where everything had started. He bent his head and whispered against my ear. You are with me, he said. I smiled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat under my cheek. Always, I whispered back.